The galactic survey vessel, Zenith's Edge, drifted through the endless black void of space, its massive hull gleaming under the distant light of foreign stars. The ship had been on routine patrol for 3 standard cycles, mapping uncharted sectors and cataloging space debris for the Galactic Council's ever-expanding database. Communications Officer Tyek sat hunched over his console, monitoring the usual background chatter of deep space, cosmic radiation, pulsar signals, and the occasional automated distress beacon from long-dead civilizations. His elongated fingers danced across the holographic interface when something unusual caught his attention. The scanner picked up an object roughly 2 kilometers ahead, drifting silently through space. "Captain Vextar, you need to see this." Tyke called out, his voice tight with excitement that made his throat sacs vibrate. Captain Vextar's massive form moved across the bridge with surprising grace for someone of his size. His tentacles, each as thick as a grown Terran's torso, swayed rhythmically as he approached the scanning station. The captain's 3 eyes focused on the display, while his sensory organs tasted the air for any hint of danger. Science Officer Hyun was already running deep analysis protocols, his clawed hands working frantically over multiple control panels. Green light from the scanners reflected off his metallic scales, creating an eerie glow around his reptilian features. "The materials are unknown, Captain," he reported, his forked tongue flicking out nervously. "Energy signatures don't match anything in our databases." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the mysterious object in all its haunting glory. The derelict ship hung motionless against the starfield like a dark omen. Its hull was a patchwork of scars and battle damage, telling the story of countless encounters with hostile forces. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, unlike the flowing organic designs favored by most galactic civilizations. Origin. Vextar's tentacles twitched with curiosity, a habit that had served him well during his 40-year career in deep space exploration. Hyun's scales shifted from their normal blue-green to a pale yellow, a clear sign of confusion among his species. His scanner beeped repeatedly as it processed the incoming data. "That's the problem, sir. The beacon says Sol 3. The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle hum of the ship's life support systems. Every crew member within hearing distance turned to stare at the science officer. Even the automated systems seemed to pause, as if the ship itself was holding its breath. Navigation Officer Yuki, a small insectoid creature with compound eyes, clicked her mandibles in disbelief. "Sol 3? The Deathworld? There must be some mistake," muttered Chief Engineer Bora, his 6 arms continuing to work on a maintenance panel, while his attention remained fixed on the conversation. Everyone aboard the Zenith's Edge knew the classification by heart. Sol 3 was listed in the Galactic Council's records as a Class 15 Deathworld, a planet so hostile to life that even the most advanced terraforming technology would be useless. The world was said to have crushing gravity, a toxic atmosphere filled with corrosive oxygen, deadly radiation from its unstable star, and surface conditions that would kill most known species within minutes. "Run the scan again," Vextar ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had seen too many impossible things to dismiss anything outright. "Already did, sir." 3 times, Hyun replied, his tail swishing anxiously behind him. The scanner data remained consistent, showing the same impossible results with each pass. Someone not only survived on that death planet, they built starships. Security Chief Nalthra approached from her station, her predatory instincts on high alert. Her species had evolved from apex hunters, and every fiber of her being screamed that something was wrong with this picture. "Could it be a trap, Captain? Some kind of elaborate deception?" Vextar considered this possibility. Space pirates were known for their cunning, and several hostile species used derelict ships as bait for unsuspecting survey vessels. But the energy readings were too complex, too authentic to be a simple ruse. "The construction materials," Hyun continued, studying his readings with growing amazement. "They're using refined metals we've never encountered. The hull composition suggests they've mastered techniques that our best engineers consider theoretical. At best, Take's communication array suddenly crackled to life with new data. "Captain, I'm detecting faint power signatures from within the vessel. Whatever built this thing, they used an energy source that's still active after what appears to be significant battle damage. The mysterious ship bore scars from weapons fire that represented at least 6 different galactic military technologies. Plasma burns from Sector 7 conflicts, kinetic impact craters from Outer Rim raiders, and energy weapon discharge patterns that suggested encounters with both Council forces and rogue species. "How long has it been drifting out here?" Vextar asked. "Unknown, sir," Hyun responded, his scanners working overtime to analyze the accumulated space dust and micrometeorite impacts on the hull. "But based on the wear patterns, this ship has been traveling through our galaxy for a very long time. The implications were staggering. Somewhere out there in the vast cosmos, on a planet that should have been a barren wasteland, a species had not only evolved to survive impossible conditions, but had developed the technology to reach the stars. And now their ship floated before them like a ghost from humanity's future, carrying secrets that could reshape everything the galaxy thought it knew about life, death, and the endless struggle to survive in an hostile universe." Security Chief. Nalthra's predatory instincts kicked into overdrive as she reviewed the boarding protocols displayed on her tactical screen. Her razor-sharp claws clicked against the console as she pulled up the standard first contact procedures that had been drilled into every galactic survey crew for the past century. "Listen up, everyone," she announced to the assembled away team, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had survived more hostile encounters than most species experienced in their entire evolutionary history. "Minimal contact, standard quarantine procedures. We don't know what kind of biological hazards we're dealing with here." The away team consisted of 6 specialists, each wearing the latest environmental suits designed to protect against everything from toxic atmospheres to radiation poisoning. Medical Officer Kwan checked his scanning equipment one final time, while Engineer Bora adjusted the portable force field generators that would create a sterile barrier between the teams. "Remember," Nalthra continued, her compound eyes reflecting the harsh lighting of the preparation bay, "we're dealing with beings from a Class 15 Deathworld. Their biology could be so alien that even breathing the same air might be lethal to us." As the Zenith's edge moved closer to the mysterious vessel, the ship's powerful engines hummed with barely contained energy. The massive survey ship dwarfed the unknown craft. But there was something unsettling about the smaller vessel's design. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, giving it an almost predatory appearance against the backdrop of space. Tyke sat hunched over his communications array, monitoring dozens of frequencies simultaneously. His sensitive hearing, organs twitched as he filtered through the cosmic background noise, searching for any signs of activity from the derelict ship. Suddenly, his entire body went rigid. "Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from inside the ship," he called out, his voice cracking with disbelief. His elongated fingers danced across the control panel as he isolated the signals. They're speaking in 17 different galactic languages." The bridge fell silent, except for the steady beeping of various monitoring systems. "Navigation." Officer Yuki's compound eyes reflected the multicolored lights of her console as she double-checked the ship's position. Chief Engineer Bora's 6 arms stopped working entirely, leaving him frozen in place like a statue. "Impossible," Captain Vextar muttered, his tentacles writhing with confusion. His species had encountered thousands of different civilizations over the millennia, but none had ever demonstrated such linguistic diversity without years of galactic contact. The communication system suddenly crackled to life, with crystal-clear audio quality that surpassed even their own advanced technology. A warm, distinctly organic voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect standard galactic with an accent unlike anything in their xenolinguistic databases. "Greetings, Galactic Survey Vessel. This is Jin aboard the Earthship Endurance. We've been monitoring your communications for the past 4 months. Permission to come aboard your vessel?" The bridge crew exchanged shocked glances, their various species expressions of surprise, creating a bizarre tableau of alien confusion. Yuki's antennae twitched rapidly, while Bora's breathing slits fluttered in a pattern that indicated extreme agitation among his people. These beings had been watching them for months. "You've been studying us?" Vextar asked carefully, his diplomatic training kicking in despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. His voice carried just the right mixture of curiosity and caution that had served him well in dozens of first contact scenarios. "We wanted to determine if you were hostile before revealing ourselves," Jin replied, his tone remarkably calm and friendly. "Your species seems peaceful. We'd like to make formal contact." Nalthra's security sensors detected no weapons signatures from the human vessel, but that only made her more nervous. Any species capable of surviving on a Deathworld had to possess capabilities that defied conventional understanding. Her claws extended involuntarily as her fight-or-flight responses activated. "How many of you are aboard that vessel?" Vextar inquired, gesturing for Take to keep recording everything. "7 crew members, Captain. We're explorers, much like yourselves. Our ship encountered some difficulties near the Kepler Nebula, and we've been making repairs while observing galactic civilization from a distance." Medical Officer Quan pulled up the atmospheric readings from the human ship and nearly dropped his scanner in shock. "Captain," he whispered urgently, "their ship's internal atmosphere contains 21% oxygen. That concentration would be lethal to most species." The revelation sent another wave of unease through the bridge crew. Oxygen was known throughout the galaxy as a highly corrosive gas that accelerated aging and caused cellular damage in most life forms. The fact that these beings not only tolerated it, but seemed to require it, suggested they had evolved under conditions that would be considered extreme torture by galactic standards. "We understand this situation is unusual," Jin continued, apparently sensing their hesitation. "We're willing to meet in neutral space, using whatever safety protocols you deem necessary. We have portable life support systems that can accommodate different atmospheric requirements." Engineer Bora leaned toward his console, analyzing the energy signatures coming from the human vessel. "Captain, their ship is generating power levels that suggest advanced fusion technology, but the design principles are completely foreign. It's like they approached the same problems from an entirely different evolutionary perspective." "We're not asking for immediate trust," Jin added, his voice carrying a note of understanding. "We know our appearance here raises questions, but we hope that peaceful contact might benefit both our species and the wider galactic community." Vextar's tentacles slowly stopped their agitated movement as his analytical mind processed the situation. First contact protocols existed for situations exactly like this, but none of the scenarios had ever involved beings from a world that shouldn't be able to support life. These humans had demonstrated advanced technology, linguistic capabilities, and most importantly, patience and respect for proper procedures. "Very well," the captain finally responded. "We'll establish a neutral meeting zone between our vessels. Both crews will maintain environmental protection, and we'll proceed with standard diplomatic protocols." As the two ships maneuvered into position, every being aboard the Zenith's Edge realized they were about to make history. They were about to meet the impossible survivors of an impossible world. The conference room aboard the Zenith's Edge had been specially prepared for this historic meeting. Environmental barriers hummed softly, creating separate atmospheric zones that allowed both species to breathe comfortably. The Galactic Survey team sat on one side of the polished metal table, while the human delegation occupied the opposite side, their forms clearly visible through the transparent energy field. Jin, the human leader, moved with a fluid grace that immediately caught Nalthra's predatory attention. Unlike the galactic crew members who had evolved from herbivores or scavengers, there was something distinctly different about the way these beings carried themselves. Their eyes constantly scanned the room, taking in every detail, every potential threat or escape route. "Before we begin formal negotiations," Jin said, his voice carrying easily through the translation system, "we thought you might want to understand where we come from." He activated a small device that projected a three-dimensional hologram into the center of the room. The image showed a blue and green sphere suspended in space, with swirling white clouds covering its surface. At first glance, it looked almost peaceful. "This is Earth," announced Sue, their science officer, a woman with dark hair pulled back in a practical style. Her movements were economical and precise, speaking of someone accustomed to working in dangerous conditions. The hologram zoomed in, revealing the planet's surface in stunning detail. What the Galactic crew saw next would haunt their dreams for cycles to come. The images showed creatures that defied every principle of evolutionary biology they had ever studied. Massive predators with razor-sharp teeth the size of daggers prowled through dense forests. In the oceans, serpentine monsters longer than small starships glided through the depths with mouths that could swallow a shuttlecraft whole. "Those are dinosaurs," Sue explained casually as if discussing the weather. "They lived on Earth millions of years ago, much bigger than anything alive today." Hyun's scales turned a sickly pale color as he watched a massive creature with teeth like sword blades tear into its prey. "You live there?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Min, their security officer, laughed, a sound that somehow managed to be both warm and slightly terrifying. "Born and raised. It's beautiful, really. The sun sets over the African savanna, the sound of waves crashing against rocky coastlines, the way morning mist rises from mountain peaks." The hologram shifted to show contemporary Earth. Storms that would register as planetary disasters on most worlds were labeled as hurricanes and tornadoes, apparently regular weather phenomena. Lightning split the sky with energy discharges. That could power entire space stations, while winds moved at velocities that would strip the atmosphere from lesser worlds. "Are your weather patterns?" Engineer Bora managed to stammer, his 6 arms trembling slightly. "They would destroy our most advanced cities." "We build to withstand them," replied Kang, their engineer, a stocky man with calloused hands that spoke of years working with dangerous machinery. "Category 5 hurricanes, F5 tornadoes, magnitude 9 earthquakes. You learn to build strong or you don't survive." The display showed more horrors: plants that could dissolve flesh on contact, insects whose venom could kill in seconds, and bacteria that thrived in conditions that would sterilize most laboratory equipment. There were creatures that hunted in packs with coordinated intelligence, others that could camouflage themselves perfectly while waiting to ambush their prey. "That creature there," Nalthra pointed at the display with one trembling claw, her predator instincts screaming warnings at what she was seeing. The image showed a massive shark, its triangular teeth arranged in rows like a living guillotine. That would be classified as a Class A threat on any civilized world. "Oh, that's just a great white," Sue said casually, as if discussing a household pet. "We swim with them sometimes, for fun." The Galactic crew stared in horror as the humans continued describing their world with obvious affection. Medical Officer Kwan's scanner was registering impossible readings from the human delegation. Their bone density was twice what should be possible for beings of their size. Their muscle tissue showed adaptations for surviving in high-gravity environments. Most disturbing of all, their blood chemistry indicated they had evolved immunity to dozens of toxins that would be instantly lethal to galactic species. "The Amazon rainforest is one of my favorite places," continued Sue, the hologram now showing a dense jungle filled with creatures that looked like they had crawled out of nightmares. "So much biodiversity. You have to be careful of the poison. Dart frogs, the fer-de-lance vipers, the bullet ants and the jaguars, but the ecosystem is absolutely magnificent." Yuki's compound eyes were processing the information at incredible speeds, but her insectoid brain was struggling to comprehend what she was witnessing. "You speak of these death dealers as if they were pleasant neighbors." Dr. Wu, their medical officer, smiled warmly. "Earth taught us that danger and beauty often go hand in hand. Yes, there are risks, but that's what makes life exciting. The same volcanic activity that can destroy cities also creates the most fertile soil for growing food. The predators that hunt us also maintain ecological balance." The hologram showed human settlements built directly in the paths of natural disasters. Cities erected on fault lines where the earth regularly split open. Coastal towns that endured regular pounding from storms that would be classified as extinction-level events on most worlds. "You build your homes in places of active geological trauma," Bora observed, his engineering mind struggling to process the implications. "Beachfront property is expensive," Jin replied with a grin, "but the views are worth it." The aliens watched in stunned silence as the humans described their planet of nightmares with the same fondness that most species reserved for discussing paradise worlds. They spoke of swimming in oceans filled with apex predators, hiking through mountains where a single misstep meant certain death, and camping under skies where cosmic radiation levels would require full environmental suits on any civilized world. "How did your species survive long enough to develop technology?" Vextar finally asked, his tentacles writhing with confusion. "We learned to work together," Min replied simply. "When everything on your planet is trying to kill you, cooperation isn't just helpful. It's the only way to survive. We became persistence hunters, tool makers, and problem solvers because we had to be. Every day was a test, and failure meant extinction." As the presentation continued, one thing became crystal clear to the Galactic Survey team. They weren't just meeting representatives from another species. They were meeting the survivors of a world that had forged them into something unprecedented in the galaxy's history, beings who had learned to call hell itself home. The demonstration area aboard the Zenith's Edge had been cleared to accommodate what the humans called a basic medical training exercise. Dr. Wu knelt beside a realistic training dummy, her movements swift and precise, as she opened what appeared to be a standard medical kit. The galactic crew gathered around, their various species' curiosity overcoming their instinctive fear. "Here's for treating a severed limb in hostile conditions," Dr. Wu explained matter-of-factly, pulling out instruments that looked more like torture devices than medical equipment. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, applying tourniquets and injecting chemical compounds that made the air around them shimmer with toxic vapors. Medical Officer Quan held his scanner over the human medical kit, and immediately his scales turned a deep purple, the color his species displayed when encountering mortal danger. "These stimulants would kill most species outright," he stammered, backing away from the demonstration. "The concentration levels are beyond anything in our emergency protocols." "Standard issue for us?" Dr. Wu shrugged, continuing her demonstration, as if she were teaching children how to apply bandages. "Our bodies are pretty resilient. We evolved to handle trauma that would put other species into immediate shock." She held up a small injector filled with bright red liquid. "This is adrenaline. We use it to restart hearts, overcome blood loss, and maintain consciousness during extreme trauma. It's basically liquid survival instinct." The galactic crew watched in horrified fascination as she demonstrated techniques for battlefield surgery, bone setting, and poison extraction, all procedures designed to be performed without proper medical facilities. What disturbed them most was how routine it all seemed to her. "On Earth, you might be miles from the nearest hospital when disaster strikes," Dr. Wu continued, packing away instruments that belonged in a surgical suite, not a first aid kit. "Shark attacks while diving, bear maulings during camping trips, avalanches in the mountains. You learn to be your own emergency room or you die waiting for help that might never come." Engineer Kang gestured for them to follow him to another section of the ship, where he had prepared a presentation on their vessel's defensive capabilities. The human ship's engineering section was a maze of redundant systems and armor plating that seemed designed to withstand direct warfare rather than space exploration. "The hull can withstand direct impact from a Class G asteroid," Kang explained, running his hand along a section of the bulkhead that was thicker than most battleship armor. "Our shields are designed to handle solar flares that would sterilize." Post-worlds, Engineer Bora's 6 arms worked frantically over his scanning equipment, trying to comprehend the readings he was getting. "These power levels, your fusion reactors are operating at temperatures that would melt our finest spacecraft hulls. We run them hot because we have to," Kang replied, activating a holographic display that showed the ship's internal systems. "Our containment fields use technology we developed after our first few fusion reactors experienced what we call rapid, unscheduled disassembly." "You mean they exploded?" Yuki asked, her compound eyes reflecting the technical schematics. "Spectacularly," Kang grinned. "Lost 3 cities before we figured out how to build proper containment. Now our reactors can fail safely, even under combat conditions." "Why such extreme specifications?" Captain Vexistar asked, his tentacles curling with confusion. "Most galactic vessels were built for efficiency and comfort, not survival against impossible odds. Earth's neighborhood is rough," Kang explained. pulling up astronomical data that made the aliens gasp in disbelief. Our sun throws tantrums regularly, coronal mass ejections that would fry most electronic systems. We get hit by space rocks on a regular basis. Our magnetic field isn't perfect, so we're constantly bathed in radiation that would require full environmental suits on civilized worlds. The display showed Sol System's asteroid belt, a chaotic maze of rocky debris that would be considered a navigation hazard by galactic standards. But the humans had built their entire space program around operating in such conditions. Your primary star is classified as variable and unstable, Science Officer Hyun observed, his scales shifting to worried yellow. Most species would relocate, their entire civilization, rather than endure such conditions. Where would we go? Asked Pilot Yoon with a laugh. Every planet we've surveyed in our local area has similar problems. Besides, you learn to adapt. This ship has flown through 3 different types of cosmic storms that forced entire Galactic Council fleets to retreat. We call it Tuesday. The casual way she delivered this information sent chills through the assembled aliens. Cosmic storms were rare phenomena that could destroy entire star systems. The fact that these humans encountered them regularly and had developed countermeasures was beyond comprehension. Show them the navigation logs, Jin suggested. Yoon activated another display that tracked their recent journey. The route showed the human ship passing directly through sectors that were marked as prohibited lethal radiation and navigation hazard, quantum instability in galactic charts. The Kepler Nebula was actually quite beautiful, Yoon continued, conversationally. The gravitational anomalies made for some interesting flying, and the temporal distortions created these amazing light displays. We got some great photographs. Security Chief Nalthra studied the tactical readouts with growing alarm. Your weapons systems, they're designed to fight multiple targets simultaneously. Space pirates love to hunt in packs, Min explained, his casual tone doing nothing to ease her concerns. Plus, our solar system has some neighbors who aren't always friendly. The Oort cloud creatures, the ice miners from Europa, the occasional rogue AI that escapes from the outer colonies. You have hostile artificial intelligences in your system? Vextar asked, his diplomatic training struggling to process this. Information. Just the ones that go crazy from cosmic ray exposure, Min shrugged. Happens every few decades. We've learned to build kill switches into everything important. As the demonstration continued, it became clear that what the humans considered standard operating procedures would be classified as extreme survival tactics by galactic standards. They had built their entire civilization around the assumption that disaster was not only possible, but inevitable. Every system had backups, every backup had alternatives, and every alternative was designed to function under conditions that would destroy conventional technology. The most disturbing realization for the galactic crew was that none of this seemed unusual to the humans. They spoke of navigating deadly cosmic phenomena, surviving equipment failures that should have been fatal, and adapting to hostile conditions with the same matter-of-fact attitude that other species reserved for discussing routine maintenance schedules. These weren't just survivors from a death world. They were beings who had learned to thrive in conditions that would challenge the galaxy's most advanced military forces. The Galactic Council chambers erupted in chaos as news of humanity's discovery spread through the communication networks like wildfire. Representatives from over 300 species filled the massive amphitheater, their various forms of agitation creating a symphony of clicks, roars, hisses, and electromagnetic pulses that overwhelmed the translation systems. High Counselor Vex Mari called for order, her crystalline form pulsing with authority as she activated the chamber's sound dampeners. The emergency session will come to order. We are here to discuss the implications of first contact with beings from Sol 3. The holographic display at the center of the chamber showed the human ship Endurance, alongside the survey vessel Zeniths. Even in the sterile light of the projection, there was something unsettling about the human craft's design. Too angular, too heavily armored, too much like a weapon disguised as an exploration vessel. Counselor Zefkri rose from his seat, his insectoid wings buzzing with agitation. His species had evolved on a garden world where the greatest threat was seasonal pollen, and the very concept of Deathworld survivors filled him with existential dread. "They're too dangerous," he declared, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "A species that weaponizes Deathworld survival shouldn't be allowed into galactic society." Murmurs of agreement rippled through sections of the assembly. The Pacifist Alliance representatives huddled together, their bioluminescent patches flickering in patterns that indicated extreme distress. The Merchant Guild's delegates were already calculating the potential economic disruption that such beings might cause. "Look at their capabilities," Zefkri continued, activating his own holographic display. "They swim with predators that could devour our largest starships. They build their cities in the paths of natural disasters. Their medical techniques involve introducing toxins that would kill most of us instantly. How long before they decide? The galaxy needs their particular brand of improvement." But Captain Vextar's report told a different story. Standing at the witness podium, his tentacles swayed rhythmically as he addressed the assembly with the calm authority of someone who had spent decades exploring the unknown. "Honorable councillors, I must respectfully disagree with my colleague's assessment. They're not warriors by nature, despite their incredible capabilities." He activated his own recording, showing the moment when Communications Officer Tyke had accidentally cut himself on a piece of human equipment during the cultural exchange. The footage showed Dr. Wu immediately rushing to provide medical aid, her movements swift and professional as she treated the alien's wound with technology, adapted specifically for non-human physiology. "When we mentioned our ship's engine troubles," Vextar continued, "Engineer Kang volunteered to help repair them, asking for nothing in return. He spent 6 hours in our engine compartment, working with components he'd never seen before, simply because we needed assistance." The recording shifted to show the human engineer elbow-deep in the Zenith's Edge's fusion chamber, his tools and techniques adapted on the fly to work with alien technology. His face showed intense concentration, but also genuine pleasure at solving complex problems. Councillor Hive Prime, representing the collective intelligence of Kepler 442, processed this information through 1,000 linked minds before speaking. "The data suggests these beings possess what we might term aggressive altruism. They are capable of extreme violence, but choose cooperation as their default response." Meanwhile, light years away aboard the human ship Endurance, Jin addressed his crew as they prepared to escort the galactic survey vessel to Earth. The ship's conference room had been reconfigured to accommodate the long journey ahead, with additional monitoring equipment and communication arrays installed to maintain contact with the Galactic Council. "They're afraid of us," Jin observed, reviewing the preliminary reports that Tyke had shared from the Council's initial discussions. His expression showed understanding, rather than offense, as he studied the various species' reactions to humanity's revelation. "Can't blame them," Min replied, checking the ship's defensive systems one final time before their departure. "We probably seem like monsters to beings who evolved on worlds where the biggest threat was bad weather." Dr. Wu looked up from her medical station, where she was preparing biological compatibility charts for potential future contact with other species. "It's interesting how perspective works. What we consider normal childhood experiences, learning to swim in waters with sharks, hiking in territories with large predators, building shelters that can withstand natural disasters, probably sound like military training to them." Engineer Kang paused in his pre-flight checks, considering the implications. "Maybe that's not entirely wrong. Our entire civilization is built around the assumption that disaster is always possible. Every human child learns skills that would be considered elite survival training on most worlds." So looked out at the stars through the viewport, watching as the alien survey vessel maneuvered into formation alongside them. The sight of two such different ships working together filled her with hope for the future. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs: friendly monsters who aren't afraid of the dark. As both ships engaged their hyperspace drives, reality folded around them in brilliant displays of exotic energy. The Endurance had been modified with human-developed navigation systems that could plot courses through cosmic hazards that most species considered impassable. The Zenith's Edge followed in its wake, benefiting from humanity's hard-earned knowledge of dangerous space. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the debate continued for hours. Some species called for quarantine protocols, others demanded military assessments, and a few suggested that humanity might be the solution to problems the galaxy had been unable to solve. "Consider the possibilities," argued Councillor Reef Singer, from the Aquatic Worlds Alliance. "Pirates have been terrorizing the Outer Rim colonies for decades because we lack the capability to pursue them through hazardous space. These humans navigate such conditions routinely." The Economic Development Committee's representative added her voice. "The mining rights alone could revolutionize galactic industry. If they can extract resources from worlds we consider uninhabitable, the economic benefits could support thousands of developing civilizations." As the hyperspace journey continued, both crews worked together to prepare for humanity's first formal introduction to galactic civilization. The humans shared their navigation techniques, their emergency procedures, and their unique perspective on survival in hostile environments. In return, the galactic crew provided cultural briefings, diplomatic protocols, and insights into the complex web of relationships that held the galaxy together. The universe was preparing for its newest members, a species that had learned to find beauty in chaos, friendship in adversity, and hope in the most impossible circumstances. Whether they would be welcomed as saviors or feared as conquerors remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. As the two ships dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's solar system, they carried with them the potential to reshape everything. Both species thought they knew about life, survival, and the endless possibilities that awaited in the vast darkness of space. The end.